Greta did it, the Madeline crew did it, and you can do it too. I'm of course talking about the Madeline yacht that tried to sail to Gaza but was intercepted by Israel. The time is 9:25 and it's the 10th of June, and it's important for me to highlight the date because this story is extremely fast moving. This video specifically uses Greta's name because
it had to be Greta because white bodies cause moral dilemmas to regimes built on white supremacy. It had to be Greta because white resistance makes headlines.
But warning, the powerful encourage us to put individual activists on pedestals. Charismatic leaders who are viewed as essential can be co-opted, discredited, or destroyed, thereby harming or even undoing movements. Thus, a movement structure that relies too heavily on hyped up individuals is highly vulnerable. Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Marian Kaba is a must read. Who else was on board with Greta Thunberg? We had Rima Hassan from France, Yasmin Akar from Germany, Baptiste Andre, Thiago Vivla from Brazil, Omar Fayad from France, Pascal Moriès from France, a lot of French people, Yanis Madmi from France, Sayeb Audi from Turkey, Sergio Torribo from Spain, Mark van Res from the Netherlands, Reva Viard from France. You watching, it's very unlikely that you are making plans to get on a boat and try and sail to Gaza. This can be the problem with activism and how it's portrayed on social media. I feel as if there's a narrative permeating on social media that in order to be an activist, you have to do these big, grand things like sail to Gaza. Of course, that would be amazing. But like I said, I'm somebody who understands human psychology. I spent a lot of years trying to understand my own brain, the cognitive workings of my brain. I've researched into neuroscience, all of this to understand there is just a lot of conditioning and programming in us that prevents us from stepping out of our comfort zones. And until we start to talk about that, until we start to evolve into people who maybe one day can go on a sailboat, this is tracking where we are at now. And where we are at now is, unfortunately, not everybody is going to go on a yacht tomorrow to Gaza. What people can do from tomorrow, what you can do from now is, like the Madeline crew, like Greta, use your privilege in your everyday life. And I made a few notes. There are certain things we can do that they may not sound as radical as, going on a yacht, but trust me, they can be just as deeply powerful. I think it's so important to remember that activism can be intersectional, that our activism doesn't have to look the same as long as we're pulling away the threads of our society. And ways that we can pull away the threads may sound very trivial, may not sound as big or as drastic or as brave or as radical as what Greta and the Madeline crew did, but these are some things you can do in your daily life. Number one, saying no, putting yourself first. And when I say this, I'm not talking from an individualistic perspective where we just prioritize our own happiness. Arguably, that's why the world is in the mess it is in right now, because we don't care about other people, we only care about ourselves. I'm talking about saying no and putting yourself first. If you're somebody who is a people pleaser, which I would argue is 99% of the population, I would argue that majority of people love to conform. They don't want to be the black sheep. They want to follow the herd. They want to play it safe. They don't want to break the rules. Saying no is the first step to breaking a rule. And once you start to break the chains of control over you, it's a slippery slope in the most positive way. Once you start saying no to things, saying no to people, you'll start to feel empowered and emboldened. And Can you see how taking those little steps of feeling more empowered, feeling more emboldened, that could actually one day take you on a journey to where you're doing something a lot more radical, a lot more quote unquote brave. Again, from Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Mariam Kaba. If your tactics disrupt the order of things under capitalism, you may well be accused of quote unquote violence, because violence is an elastic term often deployed to vilify people who threaten the status quo. Conditions that the state characterizes as peaceful are in reality quite violent. Even as people experience the violence of poverty, the torture of imprisonment, the brutality of policing, the denial of healthcare, and many other violent functions of this system, we are told we are experiencing peace so long as everyone is cooperating, behaving, is part of the social order, is part of how the system controls us. The more uncooperative you are, the more you'll be accused of aggression and violence. It's therefore imperative that the state not be the arbiter of what violence means among people seeking justice. Let's go back to the more uncooperative you are, the more you'll be accused of aggression. This is why I'm arguing that to be uncooperative in your daily life, such as saying no, can be seen as an act of radical disobedience. Is that a word? I feel like I'm making words up, but watching this, I'm sure you understand what I mean. You understand that when we disobey, that can be very radical. So disobey, listen. It's all connected. P.S. If you enjoyed this video, of course, like and subscribe. If you're interested in learning how the school system is one of the reasons why so many people struggle to step outside of their conditioning and just be their most authentic selves, how saying no and being authentic on social media is actually very radical for a lot of people because of how the school system planted in our subconscious the need to be accepted by others, the need to be externally validated, the need to conform, then you will enjoy my book, 1, 2, 3, 4, Open This Door, New Knowledge, Power, and Creative Freedom. The link is in the description of this video. Learn more about me if you're new on this channel. I haven't been posting YouTube videos for a hot minute. I have been posting a lot of short form content on my Instagram. You can follow me, the Decolonial Angel. That's the Decolonial, one word, .angel. You can follow me on Die for Art by Naomi. You can follow me on Black and God Education, although that Instagram, Black and God Education, I feel very disconnected from that Instagram, just because I feel quite disconnected from the activism space in general. That's a whole other video if you want to hear my thoughts on what I think is actually very wrong with a lot of activism. I've kind of mentioned it in here. I touched upon the idea that a lot of the activism that's presented to us is very one-sided. Not one-sided, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not multifaceted, it's one-dimensional. It's very one-dimensional. Like I said, it's this almost like extreme activism is presented as the only activism. When I say extreme, I'm just talking about, these really big, bold, beautiful acts, of course, but like I talk and discuss in my book and kind of what I touch upon in this video, not everybody, unfortunately, is going to be doing those bold movements just because most people are too scared. People are scared. And I just don't think activism, the narratives within the activist discourse make space for those type of conversations that discuss the nuances and human psychology. And it's almost as if you're not displaying these extreme signs of activism, then yeah, you're you're a sellout, you're a coward, you're an evil person, you don't care. And I know a lot of people care, they're just scared. And that's why my whole work now is very much centered on wellness and recognizing when you heal the individual, when you heal the human spirit, that's what leads to healing the world, when people feel empowered. And that's why I said, do these little things that don't sound very big, but start to chip away from the need to stick in your little box that was never defined for you or by you. So thank you for watching. I'm going to end the video here. I do have some upcoming videos centered on wellness and social justice and exploring the connection. Anyway, free Palestine.